We don't want you to mince words either because you are connected to this team. How much is Elway to blame for the mess that's going on in Denver
Well,
right
I think
now?
when you look at the personnel, I mean, he's ultimately, as Bill Parcells said, the guy who buys the groceries. And when you look at the offensive personnel, this is not an NFL offense right now at any level. That's where you sit. You don't have an NFL caliber quarterback. You don't have an NFL caliber separation tight end. You don't have, to me, you don't have an elite level running back, although I do think C.J. Anderson's a pretty good back.
Yeah, he's a good pro.
Right, good pro, but you don't have a special back, okay? And your offensive line has been garbage since you came in. It continues to be garbage. So with those things, if you're picking the players and those are the issues that you have, you know, we used to say this all the time. You can be fast and dumb and still make it in the NFL because you're fast. You can't be slow and dumb. Like, slow and dumb doesn't work, right? And right now, you look at them from an offensive perspective, there is not, in my mind, but one guy who is kind of an elite level separation guy. That's Emmanuel Sanders.
Yes.
And that is about it. You just don't have the talent base on the offensive side of the ball to consistently win games in this league.
But, Mark, wasn't the thought when this season started that defense was so strong that those corners and safeties, they just such a good that for whatever reason, however bad the offense was going to be, the defense was going to keep them in games until they could figure out what they were going to do at quarterback?
Yeah, if you don't turn it over like it's your job, then that's
Right.
But when you're turning it over like it's your job, that's going to be an issue for any defense. And the other thing that you see teams doing to them consistently is they know that if they don't put the ball into the defense's hands, they can't win. That you can see the frustration from the defensive players. If they give up a field goal, they're like, oh, well, we just lost. Well, unless we intercept the ball and take it to the house. And, I mean, you could see the frustration building. And what do? Man, they get 3-step drops, 5-step drops, balls out of your hand, run the football. Don't be afraid to punt. Don't let Von Miller wreck a game off the edge. And don't let the defenders eventually are sitting there in the second quarter going, man, if we don't get a couple of pick sixes, we're losing this game. So they start to gamble, and they give up some big plays.
So this is, tell me if I'm got this right, because I'm going to stray from my corner a bit, but I think I have this right. Sometimes an offense is so bad, it kneecaps the defense's ability to make plays.
Sure.
Because the other team goes into a game saying, the only way we lose is if their defense scores. So we are going to have the most vanilla, conservative offensive game plan. That's not going to let Von Miller come across and take the ball from me like Khalil Mack did. And so the defense then, like you said, they realize, all right, we're not going to have a bunch of like 30-yard passes downfield that we can tip and then intercept. So then they start taking chances, and the defense gets worse than it should be because of the offense.
Absolutely. Start jumping a few routes. It goes back to 2015 when they beat the New England Patriots in the AFC Championship. And Tom Brady got hit 24 times, 4 sacks, and they end up winning a game. I think it was 20-18. So go to last year. Go back to last year, 2016. The Patriots came in here. They win a game 16-3, where Tom Brady completes 40-some% of his passes. Like, it was, as you said, the most vanilla game plan. They just went, we are not going to let your defense wreck our day. And that's it. And you've seen that consistently happen with teams. Now, they're so bad right now that Miami turned it over 3 times and still won 35-9. And the offense didn't score a touchdown. It was a defensive touchdown that put those points on the board. So that's how bad this football team is right now.
What's priority number one now? I mean, clearly it looks like they go out and get a quarterback immediately, but when you start listing all the different areas on this offense that need immediate help.
I think obviously the quarterback, here was, in my estimation, one of the mistakes that John made, and it was something that on my own radio show in Denver, 104.3 The Fan, I had been like pounding the table. Go out and get an adult to play quarterback. Go find Josh McCown or one of these guys who's an adult who can not only play and stand instead of your developing quarterback, but teach a guy how to watch film. There's a difference between watching film and studying film. A big difference.
Tell us.
And the college players come in, they don't know how to study the game. Just because you play a pro sport doesn't make you a professional.
Okay.
And you have to learn somebody took you along
Yes.
the way, right, and said, this is what we're looking at. It's not just
Right. So what I hear you saying is that forget the rest of the team. All right? We know they're talented on defense. We know that they've mismanaged the offense. Demaryius Thomas, we don't talk about him the way we talk about Dez Bryant, but his fall is very, very similar.
Yes.
Now, Emmanuel Sanders is still holding the rope as the most explosive player, most dependable player that they have on their offense. But what you said is they got a dumb quarterback room. So now, what a lot of people don't realize, we gave John Elway all this credit. A couple years ago, he was executive of the year. So the thing about it, when the thing starts going bad, yeah, you can look at the players, but you got to look at the guy, just like the Giants did, the guy that's picking the players, Jerry Reese. Like, you got to start pointing blame at who picked these players. So when John Elway was taking the credit, so now the team has won 3 games, right? So now you got to start taking some of this blame, and you really got to take blame for it. It's like me. If the Vikings hire me, then John has done a good job there. And if they hire me to be their general manager in training, eventually that's my role. If I get one thing right, they dang on wide receivers better be good. All right? Like if I mess that position up, I mean, if I draft a bunch of guys, I pay a bunch of guys. I mean, Peyton Manning don't fall in their lap. Like, what is John Elway's resume if Peyton Manning don't fall on his front doorstep?
Yeah.
Well,
let me just tell you that, because Peyton Manning helped keep Denver as a destination city in the NFL. There are destination cities in the NFL. Guys want to go play there. Denver is one of those places. But if they don't land Peyton Manning, and give John credit for getting Peyton Manning, because, you know, guys like T.J. Ward and DeMarcus Ware and Aqib Talib, they want to come play with Peyton Manning. Don't make no bones about it. But the problem with a guy like Peyton Manning, there's only 3 or 4 of them in the league. When you get a guy like that, he is the ultimate compound W. He just covers warts. And so you start to think that you start to think that we don't really have that many warts. And then all of a sudden that guy retires, and you start realizing he knows every hot route. He adjusts every hot route. He adjusts protections to keep himself clean. He covers all
Force
the issues.
multiplier.
Right.
A force multiplier.
There you go.
Well,
and he covers all that stuff.
And it's one of the reasons why the year they won the Super Bowl, when Manning's stats were awful, he was still an above-average quarterback because he audibled into the right place. He set the protections. Even though his arm was shot, his brain was as good as it ever was. But, Jenna, I want to say one thing about what you said quickly, which is they went into this year thinking, well, we've got this great defense. We'll just make do at quarterback.
Right.
The reason that's unacceptable is because that's what they tried to do last year.
Yep.
They didn't learn from their mistake. Last year they said, all right, listen, we tried to bring back Brock Osweiler. Didn't work out. We've got this 7th-round pick, Trevor Siemian, we kind of like. We spent a 1st-round pick on Paxton Lynch. We'll figure it out at quarterback. And they started off last year. What were they last year?
They started off 4-0 and then ended up 9-7.
9-7, and I think they, at one point, they were 7-3, and then they fell apart down the stretch, if I remember correctly. Last year, it wasn't good enough. And the only upgrade they had in the quarterback room was to take Brock Osweiler off Cleveland's hands. They made the exact same mistake with a defense, by the way, that's now a year older, with an offensive line that didn't get better, watching Demaryius Thomas deteriorate.
Yeah.
So
Osweiler's so good, too. Cleveland cut him and said, we're going to pay you. Put him in y'all's locker room because we know he's I don't know what a force multiplier. What's the opposite?
Force divider.
Whatever. I need a bigger word for that. Yes.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.